Hello, my friends. Welcome back. Finally, after some time, we've got another tools of the trade, a new one. I've actually got another tool in the queue, which I'm going to introduce soon as well. But first, we are looking at Navigraph, and Navigraph has started to create a new version of their charts application. For those that don't know, Navigraph is a company that offers charts and FMC data, ARAX. So basically the navigation data that your X-plane or prepared airplanes can use in their FMC if they are suitable to use Navigraph. So most of the payware add-ons, payware airplanes in FSX and prepared do support the Navigraph database, and as well in X-plane. X-plane even can be updated to have a more current set of navigation data. All that is possible with Navigraph. That's not what we're looking at today, because Navigraph not only has that FMC data stuff, but it also has charts. And there has been the initial charts application way back was with Lido Charts, the European kind of Lufthansa company, I think, Lido, and they create charts worldwide. Charts that I actually did prefer, because I thought that they're visually more usable than the Jeppesen. But at some point, Navigraph switched to Jeppesen charts. And initially I was a little bit disappointed, because I think that Jeppesen charts usually, especially outside the US, are very, they don't have as much detail as the Lido charts, and they're not as readable. Okay. In the meantime, things have progressed a little bit. So first of all, it is now possible to get, at least for some of the, I think the larger airports mainly, you can actually get kind of commercial airline versions of the charts, which contain much more detail when it comes to the taxiing at airports and things. One of those points that I didn't like when we switched to Jeppesen. The other thing that came with the Jeppesen charts is the possibility to have a kind of moving map, or to have they call that the Navigraph Symlink. So you can link your simulator, by the way, both worlds, FSX Prepared and X-plane. You can link that to your Navigraph account somehow, and when you open up the chart, either in the browser, or there is also a desktop and even a mobile application. I'm not sure if it's for both operating systems. I have an iPad where this works. And with the Navigraph Symlink, you're actually able to see where you are, the position of your aircraft on charts that support it. But there's quite a large number of charts, standard arrivals, standard departures, and a lot of the airport charts support putting the little arrow in there so that you know where you are in relation to the airport. So that came with the Jeppesen, and I thought that it was quite okay. From the width of possibilities, it was kind of limited. So tools like Little Navmap would have far more possibilities, far more functionalities to do flight planning, to export, so on. Because Navigraph doesn't, or the old version or the current version doesn't actually support, for example, creating flight plans. You need to have your flight plan from somewhere else, and then you kind of cut and paste it into the Navigraph, and then you would get your route. And you can display the route, as you, by the way, see here in the background, because you have en route charts, that's that part, and then you have the particular approach charts, departure charts, the standard arrivals, the standard departures, the taxi, all the kind of information of the airport. That has changed to a degree. So Navigraph has evolved and now allows you to do much more and actually integrate a little bit more with the ecosystem that we have here in Explain and also in FSX Prepared. And that's what I'm going to show you. And at the moment, this is a beta test. So what I did is, when I realized that the beta is out, when I initially tried to access and get there, I was kind of dismissed because they didn't take beta testers yet. So there seemed to have been a very small number of people that were able to test it. At least at that time, I didn't seem to be able to get onto this. Then I received an email about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I received an email where the people were invited to join the beta test, but there was actually some conditions. First of all, you need to be a subscriber for a full year's subscription. And I think even maybe possibly more than 1 year or something like that. And you had to tell a little bit about you and why you should be a beta tester. Because obviously not everyone can become a beta tester. That would be a bit too much. And they have certain expectations. When you become a beta tester, you need to really test and also report any issues that you find so that they can fix them before this whole thing goes live. Okay, so there's a certain responsibility when you do beta testing. This is, by the way, the documentation that is provided. There's also a forum, and yeah, they go through the basic features and how it looks, how it works, especially the new stuff. Okay. And obviously, when you're a beta tester, you should probably go through this manual once. I know reading RTFM is not everybody's favorite activity, but in this case, I actually went through the manual in order to grasp what is there. It's not that much different from the usage of the current Navigraph. So if you have Navigraph, if you paid for the subscription, then you will probably, most of the concepts you will know immediately and intuitively. There are new features though, and these were the interesting bits that I looked at because, yeah, obviously I was interested in how are things different and how do they help me actually with my everyday simming. Well, actually not every day, but as often as I can. So let's first of all go to the Navigraph Charts application. It's browser only at the moment. I don't think there's a desktop application yet. This will probably come, so there will be an update, I suppose. And then at some point when this goes live, we're going to see this also in the desktop and in the mobile application. You can see the beta down here, so that indicates that this is the beta site. And as I say, you can't log on with your credentials. You need to have been accepted by Navigraph. And that means you need to apply. And I guess if you haven't received the kind of inviting email, then I suppose there's no point trying to apply for the beta. I'm not sure. Thing is, I'm not sure how long the beta is still running because it has already been going for some time. Therefore, it could well be that we see a release not that long in the future. So there's already one difference that the the current version doesn't have, and that is a map that is not en route. Okay, this is actually a world map, and it uses probably some OpenStreetMap or some similar open chart stuff. Looks quite good. Okay, is not highly detailed, but I think detailed enough so that you could see where you are and the main cities. It does not show airports, so you wouldn't find your airports here. So there is no overlay. It's not like Little Nav Map or so. Okay, but it is actually nice because if you have a route in the en route charts, which I'm calling up now, with, for example, the low en route charts, that's the lower airways, okay, By the way, check out here, this is Austria, and in Austria we don't have airways anymore. It's the same when you go to the high-end route, you see all the airways, they stop at the border. And the high-end route, actually, there is very few here along the Mediterranean, down here, the coast, Croatia, and so on. Actually, they don't have these en route airways anymore. You're flying in different rules. You're basically flying waypoints now. So there are certain waypoints that can be used, and any kind of planning tool that creates flight plans, in theory, would now have to switch and not use airways when you create the route, but you would then use certain navigation points. I'm not sure what these black ones are. Could be that these are mandatory ones or so. Yeah, that's the new stuff, and I think we are going to see more of that coming in Europe, because the world is slowly but surely switching away from fixed airways that can be congested to free routing. And that's actually, you can see this quite nicely, definitely in the high-end route, but also when you go to the low-end route. Here in Croatia and so on, Serbia and so on, they have still low-end route, but Austria and Hungary actually don't. Okay, so that's the en route charts. But apart from the basic layout, yeah, there are cities, but because of all these lines and stuff, there's the boundaries for the FIR. All that is typical for en route charts from Jeppesen, but you see roughly where you are, but you cannot see. You cannot really see where you are on the world map. So if you want to show a route without all that navigation stuff, this is actually great. I think this is a great idea. Oh, by the way, I'm not associated with Navigraph. I pay. I don't get any freebies from any of these companies. I don't want actually freebies, because I want to be independent in my assessment. So if I'm very positive about something, it's not because I'm getting paid or bribed to do that. It's because I actually like it. Right? So just to have that out of the way as well. So so this is the en route chart. Now that is nothing really new. We will see some new things coming up in a moment. The other thing that you have is airports. Now, we used to have an airport tab kind of thing here, but let's go to Ontario in California. So I use the search, then I can click here. You get information. It's Ontario International in California, United States. It has an elevation, airport elevation of 944 feet or 288 meters. Magnetic variation is currently 12 degrees. IFR capability, yes. Airport type is public. Longest runway is 12,100 feet or 3,688 meters. That is also in the old or in the current one. Okay. When you click here, very similar to the other one, you do get your charts that belong to this, like the reference, the Class B airspace. You can see how it is segmented here. We are in the Los Angeles area, so Los Angeles International is quite close to Ontario. And yeah, therefore you need to be a bit careful when you're in this area. Right, so stars and approaches and taxi. So that's the airport information, for example. There is a taxi chart. And yeah, it is quite high resolution, so it's quite nice. I've actually activated the airline mode for charts. So if there is a more highly or more accurate chart available, it's going to be shown to me. And large airports like this in the US, yeah, show this then a bit more higher. You get all your frequencies. You can actually turn this. So here's now a toolbar that is new. That doesn't exist in the old one, not like that, I think. So you can actually turn the chart. All right. So if you want to read the top here, you can turn it, and then you get all the frequencies, northeast, and so on. Then what you can do is you can, what was that? No, that is fit width. I'm not sure what width it's actually fitting. You can make it the full size, and it also turns it then into the most readable orientation. At least that's what I found it seems to be doing. You can zoom in and you can zoom out. All right. There is something that doesn't work because with these taxi charts, you cannot put them on the map. So that's why this option is actually red, can't be used. You can also make it the full screen. All right. And I think the toolbar is quite nice now because it's really quite handy. In the old one, it always used to be a little bit awkward to find things, and let's say the so-called user experience wasn't bad, but it wasn't perfect. So it took me some time to kind of get into the ways of how the application works. You get used to it, but I find this actually a bit more intuitive. I think they have really sat down and improved on the user experience in the UI. That's at least my personal opinion. So I quite like this now, the way it is, and it is quite handy. So all of that is not really that new, apart from the toolbar and some of the functionalities, which you could basically do before, but now they are collected nicely together. The way they have the charts, the way you can create favorites, by the way, you can click here and then you have them in the favorites tab. Okay, so you can have a quick access to your charts. Once you have them in a favorite, you most likely use them more than once. Okay, and so there's a quick access that existed before. You can close this. Okay, so now let's have a look at flights. Flights existed in the old application as well. You can see here, you can save flights, and they show up then here. I have quite a few. I have some of the World Flight 2018, all the flights. I also have some test flights that I did. There's one thing. If you created the flight in the current Navigraph Charts version, and you open it in this one here, they disappear from the current one. So, for example, Hapag-Lloyd Flight 1827, I can open here. It was loading it, no problem, but then it disappeared from my list of flights in the current Navigraph Charts version. It's a bit strange. Not sure if that's intended. Maybe they changed something so that it becomes incompatible with the old version. I suppose that's a little snack that I have to live with being a beta tester. It's not a catastrophe because I can still open it here. But I was wondering because I was looking for my flights. They had actually disappeared, and I was thinking they don't have to be there. They have to be there. Well, that's the thing. If you open them in the beta, most likely they're gone. I'm not sure if this is a bug, but because we're testing the beta version, not the old one, I'm just assuming that there are reasons why they do this. So let's pick, for example, a flight in New Zealand. What I can do here is I can click here, I can say open charts, then it will open all the charts for Wellington. The other thing I can do is I can add and edit procedures. So, but let's first have a look at the flights. Hang on. So how do I get at the flight itself? Unload, edit. Yeah, so you can edit it. You can say chart mode, standard IFR or airline KO. So these are it seems to be the most or the more accurate or more enhanced versions of everything. The name is NZVN to NZQN. I say save. And now the difference to the old is you would have your everything here on the side, your route, you could edit it. This has moved up now. It has actually moved up to here. Okay, and what you see here is the stream of waypoints, and at the moment we are flying directly from NZWN to NZQN. That's a direct, and I guess it's 346 miles or something, or is that the direction maybe? Could be the direction. So when I say show route, so I'm actually a little bit confused now because somehow I don't seem to be able to get that chart. So why am I not getting the chart? We have this, okay, close the chart, and here is our flight from Wellington to Queenstown. At the moment it's a direct routing, and that, you know, from the current version, it's the dotted line, meaning there is no approach and no, well, it is by kind of the approach and departure, which the old version couldn't depict. So you had no way of showing your arrivals and departures in the old version, right? So that's our current flight. It's direct, so obviously we want to improve this a little bit. And I would start first by going add edit procedure, then it opens this menu here. And now what I can do is I can check the wind, and let's assume that we are going to take off on runway 16. So it has already noted that we want to take off on runway 16. And now I can go on departure here, and it shows me anything from runway 16. And now comes a really nice feature that is new. When I click here, it actually shows me, let's put that out of the way a bit, it actually shows me all the departures that depart via runway 16 towards the south. Okay, it may look a little bit odd, but it is quite helpful. Problem here is that we have 3 times the same color. This could be because there are 3 variations for the taxu departure, possibly 3 transitions. So the coloring is a bit strange, yeah. But you get an idea of Caden 1 Quebec, for example, it heads towards the north. The Rev 1 Quebec goes towards the east. The Mesa 1 Quebec goes towards the west. Yeah, and then the other ones. So gives you a nice overview. Let's take the which one did we say? Let's take the blue one. The blue one is the Mesa 1 Quebec. Okay. So there are transitions for the Mesa. That's why we have more than one. So we need to find now out what the transition is. I think it's Zapda. When you look here, there is a waypoint called Zapda, and I can select this here. And now it shows me the Mesa 1 Quebec to Zapda. All right. Okay, and obviously I can now go to the ZIT page, and I can look for that departure. Where is it? Oh, I'm in the wrong airport actually. I should open the right airport, and then we can find it. Oh, and we lost, unfortunately, now we lost, no, it's still in there. Mesa 1 Quebec, it just doesn't show it anymore. Okay. Mesa 1 Quebec. And we can see this now. Watch this. When I click on this little button here, overlay on en route map. Oh, wow. Here's my chart in the chart. All right. And also it shows the departure route that we have selected in pink. So we know now that we are taking off towards the south, and we see the Mesa 1 Quebec RNAV departure for runway 16, all the information that we may require. ground speeds and all that kind of stuff until SAPTA. SAPTA is our transition. Now, I'm not sure, there seems to be a little mismatch, so this isn't always 100%. I'm actually going to check this then with the guys, because I realized that in some cases, and here we have another one, you see where SAPTA is depicted here, but SAPTA is actually a bit further south. What could be is that this is a not to scale. You see, it says not to scale, and that means it's probably not a bug, it's probably a feature, because the chart, when there's not enough space to do it in scale, they actually kind of cut things, and they put SAPTA here so that you know that you have to go to SAPTA, but because it's not to scale, it means that you still have to fly a little bit further than what this chart, the departure chart, shows. Okay, so I think it's the not to scale that is important. I didn't see that the last time when I realized that there was some mismatch. So that is probably okay. It's not a bug. It's actually a feature. It's supposed to be like that. Cool. Now, I would need to find a route now to Queenstown, and I could do this by using all kinds of tools, like free tools that create me a route or whatever. But what I can also do is I can actually use autoroute, and we can do this on high airways, and then I say calculate, and then it takes a wee moment, and it actually remembered that we said SAPTA, so it created something from SAPTA, possibly also because it is the most obvious one. And now we have H221 is the airway, so we are following the H221 airway until CH. Then we go to Yankee 266, and you see it repeats because they put the individual waypoints here, so this can be quite lengthy, I suppose, in some routes. Opnix, QN, so at Queenstown we kind of leave the airway, so it's one airway all the way down. Yankee 266, yeah, that's it, until we reach Queenstown VOR, or is that VOR? Yeah, I think it is. Queenstown VOR 113.60, yep. So what we can do now is we go here again, we open the charts list now for Queenstown, and we check the arrivals that are available. They are obviously for all, so I can turn on again, and it looks like the LRoute 2 Alpha arrival is the most likely to be used here. Okay, if we want to go for runway 05, let's assume that runway 05 is correct with the prevailing winds. So what I could do now is I could pick the LRoute 2 Alpha. All right, so it's in there now. You can see the green. And not only that, I can try and aha. So here we have now an example for a chart that has not got all the information it needs to be shown in as an overlay. Okay, so that's a good example actually that not all your charts will show up. For example, the taxi charts won't show up because they can't be zoomed in enough. So these charts here, the en route charts, they stop zooming in too early. So our taxi charts we wouldn't see much. All right, and there are departure charts and arrival charts that do not have the position information that they need to put this in here. The kind of geolocations or whatever that's called. So unfortunately, we cannot see this here. But we have selected our arrival. We can at least see now the green thing. That didn't work in the current version. We say approaches, and because it's for runway 05, we can go direct runway, or we can choose the RNAV F via Ibabu. Let's select that, and then you can see how you fly around here, and then around here, and then in here. All right. If we switch to world map, we can actually, and that is again a nice one, we can actually see how this looks. Queenstown is a very difficult airport to fly to. We have to be quite high here because we need to get over these mountains, okay? And then there is a relatively steep descent, and something that we can't see here is there is actually a visual part of the approach, because it's very likely that you're not low enough to shoot the approach when you come in here. So what you do is you basically fly around this little mountain in a visual circle. You continue descending, and when you're low enough, should be low enough then after that visual circle, then you land. And by the way, the same is here, because you have to be quite high in order to clear the mountains. So you come in here, and then what you do is you basically fly something like around like this, okay? So if you're too high, you use this little valley here to descend. You need to be visual. There need to be visual conditions. You need to be below the clouds, and you need to have enough visibility so that you can clear all the obstacles here. And then you fly basically along this river, because that's where the runway is. So it is quite a challenging approach in Queenstown. And with this new map, we can actually see this quite nicely. All right. So you can also define alternates, edit route by text. You can actually see what that route looks like, and you can cut and paste it. That's a nice one, because up to now, oh no, actually that did work. That did work before. Yeah, that already works. You can save your route. You can enter it manually here, like take it from some other system. And that's what it looks like at ZVN, runway 16. We go direct SAPTA, direct Waima, then Hotel 221, then Charlie Hotel, then Yankee 266, then Quebec November, direct LRUF, LRU 2 Alpha arrival, Queenstown via the Ibabu Arnav transition. Okay, right. So that is quite nice, and you can edit actually your flight plan also here. If you go with a right click on any of these, you can delete it. You can insert something before or after. You can move it left or right. So you can actually modify your flight plan visually. Or another possibility is that you edit your flight plan in here and let it rebuild. Okay. Now, I think that's the most striking kind of new stuff is the possibility to inlay your charts. So let's go back to Wellington. Let's go to the departure again, and let's put it in again. No, hang on, that was not the right one. We went via the Mazel. Yeah, so that is the most striking feature, I think. By the way, like in the current one, you can switch to dark mode, and that also applies to your inlets. And what you can also do is you can reduce the opaqueness or make it more opaque, so that it wouldn't be so it wouldn't overlay everything, so that you can read actually what is under it, so that you can see the airways better, which can be a little bit, when they're still there, there's not 100%, but yeah, it's hard to read them, so you can reduce a little bit, or you can increase the opaqueness or whatever you call that, and that means the background is shining through more. And you can add to pinboard, because like in the current version, you have this kind of area where you can temporarily put all your charts that you want to use right now. I think in the current one, it's here on the right, if I remember correctly. So you can build the chart that you want to use at the moment for your flight, and you can change this list, by the way, can remove things and then add more things later on. So if you run a flight, you do a flight planning, you might actually want to put all the charts that are important for your flight. You might want to put it here in the pinboard, as they call that. So that's what it's deleted now. Okay, now let's assume we are doing some flight planning, and there's some new features that are not existing in the current version. Again, namely, let's go to SimBrief. In SimBrief, I have done a flight. I made a flight planning. It's Emirates 99 going from Frankfurt to Dubai. I've done this flight some time ago. And it's in an Airbus A330-200 from Frankfurt to Dubai. Alternate is OYKB. What was that? It's some airport nearby. Anyway, this is the routing, okay? And what I did is I actually created the operational flight plan. And you see here all the planning information that SimBrief creates and the possibility to download all of this. And even file it with VATSIM or with Pilot Edge. At the moment, I don't think there seems to be an IVEO pre-filing. Don't know if they will do this eventually. They can do that. Bandar Abbas, that's what OIKB is. All right. So once you created your operational flight plan and you have all these things for download, you can use the SimBrief downloader to get all that files. But what you can do now is you go to Navigraph Charts and go to Let's Flights, and I can't try and remember, can I undo the flight? So if I do clear route, okay, can I actually have to try and remember. New flight. I have to check again how you clear this area, but anyway, it should work. I can say new flights. Now you have the possibility to do manual input. That is either by text, like what we've just seen. Okay, you can manually put one little box after the other, or you can use a text input. And now, one is actually you can use a flight plan file, and it's the flight simulator flight plan file. Now I haven't got one for that particular flight, I think. Let's see. Possibly I do. No, I don't. So let's try something here. And what it does is it reads in the flight plan, but in this case, it actually got a problem. So something in the flight plan doesn't match. It creates the flight plan. As you can see, it's there. But then we seem to have some issue on the latter part of it here, because these don't exist like that anymore. Okay. And the reason, or no, they do exist, but they're airports. That's what it is. This was actually a special flight plan. So it can happen that when you use this import, and this is kind of a strange flight plan like this one here, you will get errors, but it still imports it. But let's now try and find maybe a plan file that is a bit less problematic. Let's try, for example, from Cologne to Antalya. That looks more like the job. See, so we're flying here, for example, through Austria. We're flying direct from one border to the next. In Hungary, we have 2 waypoints, no airways. And we end up in Antalya. So anything that you create with the likes of little navmap and any of the other tools that will create PLN files, which are the FSX prepared version of flight plan files. And most tools can do that. Even if you are explain only, your tools can save the PLN file. It will not read the explain format, I think, but it will read when you export as FSX, for example. That should work. And you can read it in. That means no cutting and pasting and editing manually, like in the current version. this, you have a plan file, you can load it, you're done. Right? The other possibility is you say new flight, and now look at this. It sees that we have filed an operational flight plan with SimBrief. You only configure your username that you use in SimBrief. That's done in the configuration. You don't need passwords or anything. You just tell it what's your username on SimBrief in the configuration. It will ask you actually if you haven't done that yet. And then I can choose the latest flight plan, which was my flight now from Frankfurt to Dubai. And voila, look at this. The whole flight, including, by the way, departure and arrival. So if you have done this very shortly before you do your flight, SimBrief will actually check the current weather, assuming that you're flying with real weather conditions, and it will already select the runway and the departure. And let's say not 100%, but I would say 80–90% of flights that you do, this is accurate. In some cases, if you have ATC, things might change, or by the time you have actually started your simulator connected to VATSIM or IVEO and so on and so forth, winds may have changed, runway may have changed. So it's not 100%, but very often this matches, this works. And you've got it all in one go. You have your briefing then from SimBrief that you can download. It's the PDF briefing. Okay. Well, I think that doesn't. Oh, yeah, it does work. Ah, they fixed that. Nice. I had some issues doing this recently, but it seems that that's fixed again. That's great. So you have your flight plan with all the planning material for your aircraft and all that. You have your Navigraph that is immediately loaded, so you could use this now as your moving map, because the Navigraph Simlink works. It won't work now because we haven't got any simulator connected to it, but you can actually see where you are. You can see it on your route map. You can see what airway this is. And yeah, you have everything at your fingertip. And I think, personally, my opinion is that the user interface and the usability of this has improved a lot compared to the current version. Right, I think I've shown you everything there is to show. I may have overlooked some small itsy bitsy features somewhere in the bowels of it. Again, what you can do now is you could actually call up the airports that are involved. You can check data something Charlie. So we put this in here, all right, and I also pin it because I will need it. We're going runway 3 left, so I'm going to pin the ILS, and I also have a look. By the way, that works also for these charts. Look at this. This actually shows you, this is your transition, okay, and this is your ILS, and the little arrow will also follow if you have Navigraph Simlink activated, and you can nicely see where you are in relation to the approach chart. Absolutely fantastic. I don't think that the vertical part works, okay, but that's not really, that's not bad. That's, I think this is very helpful in order to get your kind of spatial orientation where you are in relation to the airport and the runway. Absolutely fantastic. And you can do the same thing for Frankfurt. You open the charts, and well, we got there runway 25 left. It's the standard instrument departure, Akon 1 Alpha RNAV departure. So I'm pinning this, I'm adding this, and yeah, look at that. Fantastic. The pinning helps you to be able to quickly find your, so taxi chart. Let's use the taxi chart. I pin the taxi chart because I will need it in Frankfurt. And it seems to be ordering it, interestingly. Look at that. Departure airport here. Arrival airport here. Then first the RNAV arrival, then the ILS. Here the taxi chart first. And then, aha, That's a nice one. So let's quickly go back to Dubai. Let's open the chart list again. Let's take the taxi checklist and airport. Yeah, and now, look at that. So it logically arranges them. That's very nice. It logically arranges them from departure, the taxi chart, the parking positions, to the Arnav departure. Then in Dubai, it's the Arnav arrival, the ILS approach, and then the airport chart. So this is a natural sequence of things. Some of them can be overlaid. You see this here with a little symbol. Some of them can't. You see them here. So that's fantastic, actually. Yeah. I have mentioned that I'm not associated with Navigraph, but I am pretty happy about what I see here. And so far, everything that I first thought this could be a bug actually turned out, no, it's not really. It seems to be working as intended. It is logical. You can explain why it's doing things. So there are no bugs. It looks pretty stable. I'm going to use it now in the next 1 or 2 weeks for all my flights, like in my live streaming as well, and then see if I come by any odd thing that happens or something like that. Then I would report it. But at the moment, so far, I've been using it. It's pretty stable, pretty good, and quite intuitive. Well, I find it intuitive. I hope you would too. Okay, that's it. I think I can't show you much more about the new Navigraph Beta. It's fantastic. I'm really looking forward for this thing to be released. As far as I understand, you do not have to pay extra, as in you have to pay in order to get it. Once it's released. And if you're a subscription, then you can automatically use it. What I guess is we might see maybe an increase in the subscription price at some point, possibly. I don't know. We shall see. I don't know if Navigraph plans to raise the price for the subscriptions. I mean, when they add so much functionality to the charts, it could be that that reflects also in the price. But I don't know. We shall see. We shall see if things get more expensive or not. Right. I hope that was helpful. Definitely something worth having a look at if you haven't got Navigraph yet. I know it's not cheap. Okay, we're talking in the plus 80 euro range for a year. It's actually cheaper to have a year subscription than to have 12 individual month subscription. You can actually subscribe and very easily cancel your subscription again. So they don't make a fuss. It's instantaneous. You can get a subscription and then basically cancel it for the next month, something like that. So they are quite flexible, and I hope it stays like that, which means that you do not have to stick with them for a year. If you do a year subscription, then obviously you can't get your money back. You will have your subscription for 1 year. If you then choose not to continue using Navigraph, then you just simply don't get the next. Watch out, by the way, the last time I extended my subscription, they almost got me to automatically extend with PayPal. I don't like that. I want to decide whether or not I want to. You can turn that off though, but you have to be careful, because I almost overlooked that little fact that they would have a subscription also with PayPal, automatically every year deducting the money. I don't want that. I want to decide whether or not I continue using Navigraph. Yes, I can cancel it, but yeah, as I say, with the year subscription, my understanding is it stays then on. I'm not sure if they allow you to stop the year subscription and then pay you back some money or something. I'm not sure that works. Okay, so just be a little careful. Choose the mode that you want. If you do a monthly subscription, obviously it makes more sense to have it automatic, because otherwise you will need to manually extend your subscription every month. Yeah, that's up to you. Anyway, I don't think you can go wrong with this. So if you plan to invest in Navigraph, you've just seen what you get. It's an awful lot. So it is really well thought through, and yeah, I quite like it. I quite like it. I will be using it now much more than I would have done right now with the current version. Right? Until next time. Bye.